How's it going?
Hello. I'm just in here.
Oh, no worries. Yeah, I was gonna let you in before I let the others. They're all
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I
so
appreciate it. Sorry, I was away from my computer and I saw, oh, it's trying to get my picture. So
yeah, no, it's all right.
trying to fast forward.
So we just finished covering appeasement, basically, sort of leading up to World War II. So I have a review game that goes with all of the unit tests. And I try to talk to him a little bit. Like I pulled parts of Chamberlain's speech and Churchill's speech to the House of Commons, but they like over Zoom, it just doesn't seem to go.
Yeah, I'm having some hard time with some of the
Yeah,
primary sources for them to really grasp what we're trying to get them to get out of it.
yeah. To get anyway. So that's kind of where we're at. Just so you
Okay.
know kind of what's going on. And then obviously, if you see anything I should be doing better, let me know. So it's always nice to have another.
Well, I'm interested in the review game thing. Like I've always played Kahoot with kids, and then I found another one, Gimkit. It's like online, but I didn't know, like my teachers in high school, we played like Jeopardy and all kinds of ones that were kind of more old school. So I didn't know.
We're in person. We're in person. One of the things I like to do, and they get a kick out of this, and I'll show you. I set up 4 desks in front of the little display, and 2 of them have their backs to the display, and the other 2 are reading like a main term or main idea, but they can't say it.
Oh, so it's kind
To
of
see who's say the face. And
that
so,
game Taboo. It's kind of like you
yeah,
can't say the word, you have to say everything without saying
right.
it.
And they get a kick out of that. So it's weird because usually they don't like to volunteer, especially sophomores. Seniors could care less. Seniors are always good. But the sophomores like just love it. They love to be the one giving the hints. And so I just rotate them through and they're all jumping in line like that. But I haven't figured out a way how to do that now.
Yeah, online it's a little harder to get them or like, are you really there to participate fully?
Anyway, all right. I'm going to let them in before they go crazy.
Cool. I know.
All right. So 30 of you. Xander's not here, right? I didn't miss Xander. No Ava. No Isaiah yet, is that right? Alex, you're here. And no Sylvia. Is that right? Perfect. All right. Happy Tuesday to you. As we went over yesterday, we're here at the end of this unit on appeasement. Yesterday afternoon, about little after 3:30, I updated the scores in Aries. So the first assignment from last Tuesday, your map identifications, that is up. A couple of people had some issues with Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, right? Your Baltic states. So let me share that with you. Remember that you can go back and change any of these at any time. So it's still available for you. But the Baltic states here that were part of your identifications, Estonia is up at the top, Latvia and Lithuania. A lot of people had trouble transporting those onto the actual map. So I tried to put those all in a row. That seemed to be most of the issues there. So Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania go 13, 14, 15. All right, 13, 14, 15. So on 13, 14, 15, even though it's hard to see, right, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania. And so some of you only put EST, and I added that as a correct answer, but that seemed to be the three most commonly missed ones there. So it's still open. You go back in and change it. If you do, just send me a note and say, hey, I updated that because it was hard to see. Same thing kind of with Switzerland, Austria going across, right? So as you go across here in terms of what you have, 21 is Czechoslovakia. Then you have Austria here at 20, Switzerland and at 18. So they are kind of crunched together. I probably should have picked a better map. But if you have issues there, it's still open. You can edit that as many times as you want, and it should be available to you. Questions on that part there? All right, no questions for me on that. The second assignment that showed up in Aries yesterday, and let me reset to make sure this is caught up with you, was the look at the two speeches, one by Neville Chamberlain, one by Churchill. So we took a look at portions of that speech, right? And so when we look at that, Chamberlain, and we showed you the video, right? He gets off the plane from the Munich conference, welcomed home as a hero. You have an entire generation, basically, of young men that were lost to the Great War, World War I. They don't really want to fight another war. And so this is a welcome thing. And so Chamberlain, as we said, talks about the sort of, probably the best way to put it, the hope that there's going to be peace, but also, right, we don't want to disarm. We don't want to look weak. We need to be able to back it up if something happens. Churchill takes the other tact, right? This whole appeasement policy is wrong. He is anti-appeasement, says all it's going to do is cause him to take more and more, may not even take years, it may only take months. And then as we find out, right, Churchill is the one that ends up being right. So the questions here about Chamberlain we went over, right, when and where. Both speeches take place in the House of Commons. Chamberlain's main goal for the Munich Agreement was basically to avoid another world war. 2, why might people in England have supported appeasement? Number of reasons, right? Lost generation, the amount of money, the economic depression that you have in Europe, basically just not wanting to go through it again. And then 3rd, what did Chamberlain claim England should do while pursuing the policy of appeasement? Make sure that we're strong, make sure that we're ready, make sure that we can come to the aid and defense of others. Churchill, right, was very outspoken, and he's going to end up being prime minister after Chamberlain. But when and where the speech take place, same place, House of Commons, October of 38. What was Churchill's purpose? Basically, right, to make an argument against this appeasement policy, to make points about what is going to happen. We talked about question 5, right? What did he mean about having Hitler served these areas? In the second paragraph of the speech, Churchill claims could have prevented Germany from taking Sudetenland. What is the evidence that he takes to prove that? And then what should Churchill predict will happen in Czechoslovakia? So remember, I've mentioned this 2 or 3 times, but Czechoslovakia is a country that does not exist prior to World War I. It is a country that is created out of the Treaty of Versailles. And so you've got German, people of German heritage in that area. You have people of Austrian heritage, Hungarian heritage. There are a number of different ethnic groups in that area that are going to be forced into one country. So all of those are on Aries now and will show up as a missing assignment if you have not turned them in. If you turn them in after 3:30 yesterday, those will be updated by 3:15 today. And so check and make sure that that looks right. In your Canvas, go ahead and go to the week 11 module here. And we'll click on the overview page for what we need to get done this week. Just checking to make sure, still no Sylvia, still no Isaiah, right? Still no Ava, still no Xander. All right, so what we will do is we will go over the review game together, over appeasement, and cover those basic areas, right? So don't forget, we also took a look at Japan and what they were doing with China, and nobody had interfered there and stepped in there. Also with Korea, right? The Korean Peninsula and Japan during the 1930s. So we'll go over that. Make sure that we understand what is going on. What is the U.S. involvement during this time period? What does the U.S. do about these incursions by Japan into Korea and into China, Manchuria specifically? And then what do they do about Hitler? So what is the popular theory about the U.S. there? If you click to the next page, it'll have the review game information for you. So remember, on a non-tablet device, if you just click on this, you can practice this review game we're about to go over together as many times as you want. If it is on a tablet-like device or a cell phone, you'll have to download the app, then use this game pin, and you can still practice that as much as you want. But I will bring up the Kahoot. I'll put that in the chat room as well, and we can go over that information. Okay, so the game pin, I'm going to put in the chat room for you. 219-9628. All right, so kahoot.it, or if you're playing on your tablet or cell phone, you just open up the app, put in 219-9628, and you put in your name and be ready to roll. All right, so it's still open for those of you joining. 219-9628. Code will still be down the bottom right. All right, the following was a reason Britain and France appeased Hitler at the Munich conference. So 219-9628 still open. Right? They don't want another war. Too many lives lost, too much money, too much despair. They want to try to avoid that situation again. All right, Germany starts World War II by invading Poland. Japan began by invading Manchuria. How are they the same? How is Germany's invasion of Poland and Japan's invasion of Manchuria, northwest China, how are those the same? Both those countries, right? Both of those countries basically claimed that that land had belonged to them previously. And so that's why they feel justified in going in and doing that in terms of a takeover. All right, why was the Stalin-Hitler Pact of '39 labeled as a non-aggression treaty? Why was that aggressive though? So this is after the Munich Agreement. Hitler and Stalin sign a pact. So remember, it is similar to what you had in China in the 1800s. It basically takes Eastern Europe, divides up the western part of Asia or the eastern part of Europe, gives spheres of influence to the Soviets. Then it takes the western part of that eastern portion and gives spheres of influence to Germany. So it's very, very aggressive, similar to the way that the 7 or 8 countries sort of divvied up China in the 1800s. So even though it was a non-aggression pact, it was those two agreeing not to fight over those spheres, but it was very aggressive in the amount of land that they took over and what they were going to do with it. The Munich Agreement of 38 was a prime example of appeasement. What was the Sudetenland? It is the part of Czechoslovakia inhabited by those German-speaking people who had a connection to Germany during the time period before World War I is divvied up in terms of the losses that Germany is given. The America First Committee advocated isolation and non-intervention. What were its principles? So this was one of the leading groups in the United States during the 1930s. Those of you that put red and yellow, you're correct. Remember that all of those were principles that we had talked about last week. America needed a strong defense to protect its democracy and protect its interests in this hemisphere. Aid to others had weakened America. Remember, we talked about the stock market crash in October of 29, the Great Depression in the early 30s, and the inability of these European nations to pay back the loans that they owed us, right? This involvement in the Great War has basically weakened us economically as well. We need to stay out of it. And then also we can preserve democracy by staying out of it and not getting involved in their issues in Europe. Which of the following pacts ensured Soviet neutrality towards Nazi Germany? All right, so a couple of things. Remember, do your process of elimination. For one, it can't be blue because Lenin dies. Stalin is the one that replaces Lenin when he dies. Marx, I told you, his Communist Manifesto, he's never a political leader. He's just the one that comes up and pushes this idea. And then Pavlov is, right, basically has nothing to do with history, right? Pavlov's experiment. So use your elimination to get rid of those. But that's the Stalin-Hitler Pact in 1939. That is the year after the Munich Agreement. Okay, which UK Prime Minister declared peace for our time after a treaty negotiation with Hitler? Which one was pro-appeasement? Oh, darn it. Tony Blair, Prime Minister of the United Kingdom in the early 2000s. Margaret Thatcher was Prime Minister in the late 80s, early 90s. Churchill was anti-appeasement. Chamberlain is the one that comes off the plane, right? Holding the agreement. We're going to have peace in our time. Chamberlain is the pro-appeasement. Got to make sure you know that. That will be on the test. All right. What form of foreign policy did Never Chamberlain engage in while trying to deal with Hitler? We saw the video on that. Remember the guy coming up asking for the lunch money? You've got two choices. Right? It's appeasement. Chamberlain is pro-appeasement. If we make a deal, we know that the Treaty of Versailles was somewhat unfair, we can stop another war from commencing. The America First Committee reflected the belief of many Americans known as what? All three characteristics that we said were true about the America First Committee, what is that belief called? It's isolationism. Isolationism. We're going to stay in our own business. We're going to stay in our own hemisphere, and we're going to stay out of their business. Which of the following was the first direct challenge to the League of Nations? So which one of these situations is the first direct challenge to the League of Nations? Right? Germany sending troops into the Rhineland. Germany's invasion of Poland, the blue, remember, starts World War II. So we had challenges before that. Remember, Hitler also, before taking the Sudetenland or getting the Sudetenland through the Munich Agreement, invaded and took over all of Austria. All right, Britain and France's use of appeasement in regards to Hitler accomplished the following. Basically, it allows for Hitler to consider taking the rest of Czechoslovakia. Look at that. Caitlin and Gisela up into the top 4. The main reason the U.S. failed to halt fascist aggression prior to World War II was due to the policy of? It's isolationism, right? Nationalism, that was before World War I, sort of leading into World War I. Non-aggression pacts were after, between Germany and the Soviet Union. Appeasement is what Great Britain, France, Italy, and Germany use to divvy up Czechoslovakia. A major reason for the Japanese invasion of Manchuria in 1931 was what? Japan wants room for expansion. They want areas for markets. They want natural resources. They're isolated on those islands. Which of the following invasions occurred prior to Germany's invasion of Poland? Italy's invasion of Ethiopia, Germany's invasion of the Soviet Union, Japan's invasion of Singapore. Italy's invasion of Ethiopia happens prior to September 1st of 39. Remember, Italy was on the winning side after the Great War and they ended up losing land. So they're looking to expand as well. Which of the following countries was invaded prior to the start of World War II? Austria, Czechoslovakia, Albania, or all three? All three of those are true. All three happened prior to September 1st of 39. Italy goes into Albania. Remember that land to the north and the east that they had lost after World War I. Germany goes into Austria and Czechoslovakia. All right, what is the main reason for Japan's invasion of Manchuria? It's all economic, right? Japan is a series of islands. They don't have a lot of natural resources. We talked about the worldwide depression, basically. After World War I, silk is not selling around the world as it once was. This is a chance for them to acquire natural resources and areas for new markets. Very colonial. Which of the following led to the failure on the part of Western democracies to halt fascism? All of those are true. Isolation helped. Appeasement helped with those problems. Economic problems all helped in the failure of Britain, France, really the United States, to stop fascism. Which of the following gave Hitler the confidence to attack Poland? Right? His non-aggression pact with the Soviet Union. He was going to get that sphere of influence. There was a large portion of Poland that had belonged to Germany up until the Treaty of Versailles. And the Munich Agreement is the other portion where, you know, he basically had taken land already and they gave him more. Which of the following countries used isolationism following World War I leading into World War II? It's the United States. France and Britain use appeasement. Soviet Union non-aggression pact with Hitler and Germany. US just stays out of it. Isolationism, we're going to worry about what's going on here. We already lost enough dealing with World War I. France and Great Britain were too preoccupied with what to take action against Germany? Economic recovery. Excuse me. Everybody's in a depression. Nationalist and communist parties of China fought together against which nation during World War II? Japan. So remember, we talked about the rape of Nanking, all of the brutal things that Japan was doing to women and children. Nationalists and the communists basically put off their civil war because they hate the Japanese more. We got to protect our country against the foreigners, and then we can worry about what our country is going to look like after that. How are the effects of isolationism and appeasement to the aggressive acts of fascism similar? Right. Both policies were attempts to avoid war. Lisa up. All right, two left. In an effort to expand the territory, the Japanese brutalized and killed the population of, I just mentioned this. Nanking. Nanking, up in Manchuria. Prior to World War II, Europe and the US suffered from both economic and political distractions. Right. Both suffered from worldwide depression. So basically, late 20s, early 30s is not good economically for most of the world. And then your last question here, what encouraged Germany and Italy to invade Europe and Northern Africa? All right. League of Nations failed to control Japan's aggression in Manchuria. Let's see who we got here. There's third, Lisa second, versus Joanna. All right. So, taking a look at, and I'll bring this up to go over that with you, but taking a look at some of the ones that were not well answered. Which of the following nations was the first direct challenge to the League of Nations, right? And that's going to be Germany, right? Germany is the first one to start taking land. What encouraged Germany and Italy to invade Europe and Africa? It's basically the fact that the League of Nations, other nations, European, United States, don't show any interest in stopping these people from taking land. The America First Committee reflected the belief many Americans known as isolationism, right? We need to mind our own business. We got a number of problems over here. The fact that we got involved in World War I and gave out those loans and we can't get the money back means we shouldn't be doing that. Which of the following invasions occurred prior to Germany's invasion of Poland? That was Italy's invasion of Ethiopia. How are the effects of isolationism and appeasement to the aggressive acts of fascism similar? They are both trying to avoid a war. Stalin-Hitler Pact of 39 labeled as a non-aggression treaty. How is that aggressive? It's because it basically divides up land in Eastern Europe without say from anybody else, even the people that live there. Major reason for Japanese invasion of Manchuria, it's going to be economic, right? They wanted room for expansion, whether it be natural resources or markets for their goods. Main reason the U.S. failed to halt fascist aggression prior to World War II was isolationism, right? Basically, the United States is staying out of it. It's going to be isolationism. In an effort to expand their territory, the Japanese brutalized and killed the population of Nanking. I didn't show you any pictures of that, but you can Google that if you want to see something gross. Which of the following countries use isolationism following World War I leading into World War II? That's the United States. France and Britain use appeasement. The Soviet Union uses a non-aggression pact. UK Prime Minister that was pro-appeasement is going to be Chamberlain. What was the main reason for Japan's invasion of Manchuria? That's to solve the economic problems, the fact that their silk is no longer selling around the world. And then last most missed question, Britain and France's use of appeasement in regards to Hitler accomplished the following. That is his invasion of Czechoslovakia. All right, any clarifications needed on that one? Okay, so in period 4, I went through, I gave you this list yesterday, but you want to make sure from the last unit test, which was 12, we're still waiting on Gracie, Nestor, Sylvia, Gisela, Jesus, Alexis, Alex, Isaiah, Yahir, Sarah, Ryan, Lolly, Xander, and Avi. That's still open for you. You want to get that done before the next unit test, which will start tomorrow. And then both assignments that were due yesterday, I've got both assignments from Sierra Joanna, Caitlin, Matt, Grace, Lolly, and Andrea, as well as Elisa V. So if I called your name, I've got both of those. If I didn't call your name, you're missing one or both of the assignments that were due yesterday. And so that is what you want to finish with your remaining time. If you finish both, you can use the link that I provided in Canvas, and you can practice the, let me get the right, you can practice the review game as many times as you want. So get that up. And then tomorrow in class, we'll be able to finish this unit. All right, questions or concerns, if you need any help, stay here. I know there's a couple of you that had questions on the map as to why you were getting them wrong. You can stay as well, and I can walk you through that then. So everybody has got something to do to finish their time. We'll see you tomorrow at 1:50 if you're leaving. All right, who wants to ask first? Don't be shy.
Mr. Grock, I just turned both of them in right now.
Okay, so I'll go in and check, and then I'll have that updated by 3:15.
All right.
I'll read through them and then go through that, and then check and make sure it looks right to you, and you'll be set.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Ryan, do you have any questions?